All right, so we're going to work on this electro-pneumatic circuit on the right. We have the pneumatic side. This section, all the components should come from the pneumatics library on the left here. And then we'll have the bottom section, which is the electronics components, which will all come from the electrical control library. So if we go to the pneumatic library, we make sure we're in the pneumatic library to get these parts. We'll start with a double acting cylinder, and automatically I'm in hydraulics, so I got to make sure that I click over the pneumatics to get the right cylinder here. And then this next part, I have a throttle valve, and it's a variable throttle because it has that line through it. That's how you know it's a variable throttle. And then it's a bidirectional, so it doesn't have a check ball. The check ball will let free flow go around the throttle in a different direction, but this diagram just has the single direction here. We need a directional control valve that's solenoid actuated and spring return. And on the spring return pocket, it's sending the fluid to the retraction state of the cylinder or the rod side of the cylinder from our pressure source. So we can do this source, pneumatic pressure source, and there's an exhaust too that we're going to use. And then we want there's 4 ports and 2 positions for this valve. So 4 ports, 1, 2, 3, 4 in each position. So we want a 4, 4, 2. Looks like we don't automatically have one show up. So we're looking for a control valve, directional valves here. And then we find this 4 two-way valve. And it looks like in the library, the 4 two-way valves, there's already one with solenoid and its spring return waiting for us. We can then connect our source by just, let's zoom in here. If I just grab my component and match up the red circles, they turn black, and then I can pull it away and create a line if I want. Or I can just click every time I want to turn to connect the dots. All right, so now it looks like our diagram. And now we need the electrical controls. So we're gonna go here and first get our 24 and our 0 volt. But some of the exercises might use a different control standard. So this diagram uses the JIC standard. And then there's also this IEC standard in the library. So we're gonna open up the JIC. We're gonna have lines and connections here, plugs and sockets, electrical references, power source. So we'll start with our power source, the 24 and the 0. Just scroll down until you find the 24 and the 0 common. And then we start plugging these components. This stop button is a type of switch. It's a normally closed push button. So first I have a stop button, and we can name it right away. It gives us the chance to give it an alias. So we'll call it the stop button. And then we also have a start button, which you can see in the diagram is normally open, so it does not allow electrical current to flow. Start, label it start in the alias. And then below that is a relay coil or contact. The coil is over here on the right, sorry, this is the relay contact. And so if we go to our contacts, we'll get a normally open contact, put it below the start button. And it wants to know right away what its connection is. It pops up this box where it's on variable assignment for the contact, but we don't have that coil in yet. So let's put the coil in. So I'll exit out of this, and this coil here is what it's looking for. So if we look at our sensor switches, looking for our coils, output components, there's the coils under output components, and there's coil. Grab the coil and put it in line with the start button and stop button. And now this coil wants to be a transmitter. and we're going to get a name to make the connection. So we want to name this 1-CR, so relay coil number 1. And now that's transmitting a signal, or it can be used as a connected device. So it's not transmitting a signal, but it's called a transmitter in this software to know that it's giving off this name, this alias. And so you can connect things to it through the alias name. So if we go into our contact here, we go to variable assignment. Oftentimes when you open the window, you'll first see this view, but you want to go to variable assignment. And then here, it wants to know what you're going to connect to. It's going to be the receiver end. And so you come on the right side to search for the aliases or signals that are available to use. And we called it 1-CR. So if I just put a 1, it already filters it to everything with a 1, and there it is. So I can just double click on it, and it appears over here as a connected device. Down here shows you that association. If I want to disconnect it, I have to go to this association on the bottom and right click and say delete link. Okay, but I want that connected. And so now this device turns, the lettering both turns from black to blue once they're connected. Let's move this down here so we can see it better. The next thing we have is we have a limit switch, contact switch, a sensor switch, and we have another contact 1CR below. I can do is I can copy the one I already have with its connection if I hold Control and then left click on the device and drag it away and then release, makes me a duplicate. I want that down here. And then I also have a solenoid, so I need a solenoid in electrical controls and a limit switch. So I'm going to go over here and let's find the switches. So sensor switch, and I'm going to do a normally closed. Now I need to double check. So this is a screenshot usually. And so if this limit switch in the pneumatic circuit is in contact, then it will usually show the reactive state of the switch. Right now it's not in contact, so I know that in the normal situation where it's not sensing anything, it's going to be closed. So I need a normally closed limit switch. I'll put it in line right there. And then I have this coil I copied, and I need a solenoid. So I need the output components. I have a solenoid DC AC. I'll pull that in here. And that also, when that's activated, whatever we connect it to will also get activated. So we're going to name it solenoid A. And then what we're missing on the pneumatic side is we're missing our limit switch up here. And all that is a reference point. So if I go to my pneumatics here in the library, and I can close the directional control valves, I can look at the sensors, and there's a sensor reference. That's all I need here. It's just a reference point for my limit switch. So I want to connect this. This is going to say when it receives a signal, then whatever's connected to it will be activated or deactivated. We'll call it LS1. And then we need to align it with full extension. Now I just threw it out here, but I don't know if it's right. There could be anywhere, and I need the two diamonds to connect in order for it to be activated. So this diamond on the rod, once it hits that diamond on the limit switch, it'll be connected. So I double click on my cylinder, I go to the data section, I go to extension here, and I'm on a percentage, and I do 100% extension. And when I hit enter, it extends that cylinder. So I can leave that window open, and I can drag my limit switch until the two diamonds match up. Then I can let it go. Then I can reconnect on my cylinder by clicking on it, and I can go back to 0 extension, and then I can hit escape. If I hold Control and back scroll the wheel on my mouse, I can zoom out. If I hold the space bar, I can slide my diagram around. So now I know that that limit switch is at the right spot for full extension to be activated. But I want to connect it over here to this limit switch in my electrical diagram. So I double click on this limit switch, I go to variable assignment, and I want to find LS, and there's LS1 that I just created. So I'm gonna double click on it and make that connection, and immediately the text turns blue. So now these two are connected. Okay, this one had a question mark above it before, and when I connected it, it turned into LS1. This one had LS1 and it turned from black to blue to show me it's connected. Now I should connect this electrical diagram before I get any further. And it's the same way that I connect the pneumatic lines. I just go from red circle to red circle. This one's connected in parallel with the start button. The contact is 1CR contact here. If I click and I go up to the line where I want it connected, I double click and it will create a black dot, meaning there's more than one connection there. Same thing here. Now it's in parallel with my start button. And then I can connect this up here to the 24 volt, to my solenoid, and to my 0 volt on this side. Now my solenoid A is still black because I have no solenoid connected to it. So the solenoid I want to be activated is the solenoid on the directional control valve. So I double click on the directional control valve, I go to variable assignment. It has one spot. And if I want to make sure I'm in the right spot, because sometimes you have two solenoids, you come up to this diagram on the left and you click on it, and it knows that I'm on that. See how it's red now? It knows that I'm on that solenoid. I don't want limit switch 1 connected. I want solenoid A. So SOL filters it to find my solenoid A. I double click to make the connection. And down below it shows it the association. I can exit out of there and I have blue text and blue text. I have a start and stop button, a limit switch, a relay coil, and 2 relay contacts. Now I can simulate this, hit play. I have my pressure source going to the retracted end of the cylinder or the rod side of the cylinder. When I hit start button, this cylinder will extend and reach the limit switch. The limit switch will turn off the solenoid A and allow it to retract. So let's test it out. There it goes. Works good.